Let's talk about the Dune movie and some of the reviews not being that positive and being even negative, and what it means for Dune and what it means for our excitement level to watch said movie, Dune. Have I said it Dune enough for the YouTube algorithm to favor this video? I don't know. Dune, Dune, Dune.
I'm confused by this because basically what happened is the first note we got about it, and more has come out since. IndieWire put out this thing that basically says Dune review, Denis Villeneuve's epic spice opera, nice, is a massive.
Oh, I do. I get what they did there.
Spice opera, right? But here's my thing: is remember that Denis Villeneuve said nobody is going to get. Nobody's going to get to watch it at home. No streamers or whatever it was, right?
No screeners.
No screeners. No at-home screeners this time.
Yeah, they're not sending out DVDs to these pompous critics.
Well,
like, sorry, John Campia, you're not getting a screener, bro.
I think now it's a link, though. It's not a DVD anymore.
Right, because this is 2021. That makes sense, right. Actually.
But this article talks about the fact, and let's listen to the way it starts out here. In the end, Denis Villeneuve was all too right. Your television isn't big enough for the scope of his Dune. So that means that David Ehrlich, who wrote this, watched it on his TV.
Or he's lying.
No, he's not going to have a job for very long if he's lying.
He's working for IndieWire, so you're right.
So, so apparently he saw Dune. And he goes through, and we'll talk about it here and see what he thinks. Now, keep an open mind for yourself. But I am curious as to why someone was able to watch it at home when supposedly Villeneuve had said that the studio was backing his not wanting anybody to see it, but on the big screen. So in here it says that this lifeless spice opera is told on such a comically massive scale that a screen of any size would struggle to contain it. Likewise, no story, let alone the mishapen first half of one, could ever hope to support the enormity of what Villeneuve tries to build over the course of these interminable 155 minutes.
Damn, it's a lot of big words.
Someone mentions that time is measured differently on Arrakis. That's funny. Or the sheer weight of the self-serious portent that, why are you writing like this, dude? Write for normal people.
No, it's because he wants you to believe that he is just so intelligent. And in reality, he has thesaurus.com open.
All journalists are known to use, if you're trained journalists, you know that you use common words. You don't use these words.
Not this guy.
Here's what it says. For all of Villeneuve's awe-inducing vision, he loses sight of why Frank Herbert's foundational sci-fi opus is worthy of this epic spectacle in the first place. So basically he's saying that the movie, he got so lost in the idea of making the movie epic that he actually made a stinker.
That is fascinating because when we first talked about Dune, do you recall me saying I'm worried about this being having the same tone as the first movie, where it's like this big giant space opera and it feels like you're sitting in an opera? It doesn't feel like you're watching an actual epic tale.
Right. Well, yes, because they didn't have the graphics to support everything the books had at the time. Right. Now they can do that, though. So here's what he says. The first and most fundamental problem is a screenplay that drills into Herbert's novel with all the thunder and calamity of a spice harvester, but mines precious little substance from underneath the surface. So basically he's saying this is a giant, pretty movie that has no substance to it, no good story.
Man, I'm so glad you're reading this because I don't even know what half those words mean.
Well, it's somewhat of a disappointment to me because I want this to be a beautiful movie, but I also want it to have a really great story. So this is not a good lead off. It's not going to keep me from watching the movie or being excited to watch the movie. It's only one person's review, but it definitely goes deep into why the movie isn't good. He actually goes through each character and talks about like Momoa is similarly likable as Swordmaster Duncan Idaho, but spends most of Dune trapped in Paul's insufferable dreams of the future, which are scattered throughout the story like ransom notes from a more exciting cut of the film.
Oh my god, I do not like it when movies rely so much on like flashbacks or visions or whatever.
Yeah.
When they do that, it's like I feel like it just feels like empty exposition. Is that the right term?
Yeah, no, it does. It's
Can I
supposed
read
to.
this passage they wrote? He said, "How big is Dune? We're talking slabs upon slabs of concrete as far as the eye can see." And this part here, and sandworms so large they can eat the graboids from tremors like bar nuts. Even yoked kings like Jason Momoa and David Bautista look like tabletop miniatures. Whoa.
Which is okay. I mean, I think that's what the sandworms were supposed to be. I know that. I mean, the sandworms are huge. They're terrifying. So that's okay. I don't know what he was expecting. Maybe they were going to battle the spice worms. Guess what? No. No, not going to happen. Maybe ride one. Yeah, this is a very. So he ends up giving it a C-. Interesting. This is only the beginning. The last line threatens, and yet it unmistakably feels like the end of something too. Not the end of watching movies on the big screen, but perhaps the end of making movies that are too big to fit on it. This guy seems like a jerk to me. Straight up. I don't like critics anyways. I'm not saying you got to like say everything is great, but that's just like a really smart aleck thing to say.
Bro, critics don't like critics.
He wanted to tie his beginning and have this clever ending, to fit into it. And all it does is it makes him come across as a jerk, frankly speaking.
There's one thing too that bothers me about Dune. Every trailer I've seen, every image, every screenshot, the coloring, it seems like they just didn't slide the white balance over enough to the warm side of the scale.
That might have been intentional though. That's a Denis Villeneuve thing.
Oh, that is so hard for me to watch, man, though, especially when you're in the desert, dude. Ugh.
Ken says something here that I like. He says, wait and see what the actual audience has to say, which I 100% agree. Too many movies where I have not agreed with the critics, and the audience score ends up way higher on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's true.
So
that's true.
Is there any other new news for Dune? Let's see what else we got here. I mean, we know the people are in it. Jason Momoa, David Bautista, Josh Brolin, Javier Bardem, Oscar Isaac. I mean, Stellan Skarsgård. This is a huge cast of people that we know and like. So I really hope it's good.
Yeah, I hope that this guy is wrong and there isn't a ton of those visions or whatever, flashbacks. Like, it makes it so hard to follow a movie when you rely so heavily on that everything is not now the whole movie doesn't have to be in chronological order, but if half your movie is cut out of order to either have a flashback or a flash forward, sorry, my hair is a mess right now. It makes it really hard to follow the movie, and if it feels like a massive chore trying to follow the story, then it actually ends up taking away from the story for me. Because now I'm working to understand the flow of the story. In fact, as much as I loved the show Witcher, The Witcher is guilty of that. The Witcher series, and I love Cavill, and I loved that TV show, but my biggest complaint was that the episodes didn't feel like they were in order because there were so many flashbacks and so many flash forwards that I couldn't figure out who was what or where. I had to watch that show like 3 times to understand where the characters take place in the overall timeline that is that series.
That's very interesting. And I got to tell you, this would be worth looking at this a little bit deeper. I mean, he talks about Timothy Chalamet as being a natural fit for the role, because he's a gawky New York kid. So that's actually going to be interesting. It sounds like a lot of this review is just, it seems like they were completely being taken out of the story. So it's possible that could be what it is. But like I said, you should go into this with an open mind and make your own opinion about it.
I got to tell you this too. Yes, Shane, you're absolutely right. But God, making a Dune movie has got to be so difficult. Not only do you have people's high expectations based on the masterful books, people's expectations based on the movies they might have liked, but decades of mistakes when it came to Dune outside the books. I don't know, and the scope of it being so large and so epic, yet there being so much exposition and dialogue. Like, you got to somehow, like what Jason Momoa said, there should be a 4-hour cut. Well, there isn't a 4-hour cut, but maybe there should be 3 movies. Maybe it should be a trilogy and not part 1 and an unplanned part 2.
And that's my biggest fear, is that, this thing comes out October 22nd. We're literally a month and a half away from it coming out. If it doesn't do well, there will be no part 2, which Dennis has an entire plan for a part 2. And no matter how much he says, no, part 1 is neatly wrapped up just in case, obviously there's a whole other story in his head to continue on that we won't see if this doesn't do well, which will impact, what we think about the first half of the movie. By saying it's only half of the movie, in essence, makes it only half of the movie, no matter how it ends.
Right.
So this is a prime potential for being disappointed if you're a Dune fan.
Thanks for watching. To see the full conversation, become a member of the Popcast family. Use the link in the description below, or go to our channel and click the join button. Select your tier, and we'll see you at the next show.